Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, June 1st, not Monday, May 31st, which is when we would normally do one of these things. And you are listening to Behind the Screen Door. Yay! Everyone applause.
Wait a minute.
It's summer now.
This is not my podcast.
Yeah, but you're here, aren't you?
Oh my god. How
Yeah.
did I end up here?
We done Brad napped you,
Oh
son.
my god, it was a raucous 3-day weekend. And
Brad.
then I woke up here.
Brad Shoemaker,
Hello.
welcome to the Screen.com podcast.
Hi.
You are here because you love movies.
Yeah, and you needed somebody to sit in this fourth chair.
Yeah, and we like bringing in people who love movies
Sure,
and
yes,
television.
I do enjoy both of those things.
Excellent.
Quite a bit.
All right. Matthew Rory, how are you doing, sir?
Hi, how's it going?
That doesn't actually answer my question at all, but okay, great.
Yeah.
Matt Lopez, what's going on with you, bro?
Not a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's been one of those days, just kind of slow and plodding. There's no news.
Man, you really
Nothing,
know how to
man.
punch things up for a podcast. Let
Yeah.
me tell you, you're
I am a
just-
human downer.
You are a fountain of energy and enthusiasm.
It's the day after a holiday.
I
yeah,
know.
that's
yeah,
exactly
Everybody's
what it is.
hungover.
I was drunk this entire weekend, no joke.
That I came in at all today is a minor miracle.
Yeah, well, fair enough, and I'm glad to have you all here, except maybe you, Lopez, but whatever. Let's talk about some damn movies that came out. I want to preface our discussion of movies with a question that was posited to us via the ScreenCom Twitter feed, which if you're not following, you should be. This comes from HMX Casey, who is not a person I've ever met in real life at all. He wanted to know what was the better summer zombie thriller, George A. Romero's Survival of the Dead or Sex and the City 2. And, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and they're both god-awful, so I don't really know which is the better zombie movie. Rory, what do you think?
You're uniquely qualified
Yeah.
to answer this question.
It was, I did see Sex and the City 2 by myself, may I add. The exit polling on that film said 90% of the audience was female. A whopping 90% of the audience was female.
Now, does that exit polling account, do they ask, dude to go to that, are you a confirmed bachelor or not?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still a little speechless at the entire experience. It was awkward and horrible, and I feel unclean still.
And you don't even hate Sex and the City
No, I
as a
don't.
whole. Like you've seen the TV series fairly extensively.
I have. I had an ex who indoctrinated me, shall we say?
Yeah.
And they weren't terrible. They were never. There is never my favorite thing in the world. But the movies definitely seem to kind of take whatever goodwill that series had. And I haven't seen the first movie, but this movie especially was just like, hey, let's make $100 million movie, 2.5 hours long. When all the episodes are like 22 minutes max, and they all had like little tiny.
Yeah.
It's like, let's blow it up big because that means good stuff's going to happen.
It seemed like it was an excuse to just keep the franchise going because someone thought money. And two, it seemed like it was an excuse for those actresses to go hang out in Morocco for 4 months. Like there was no it doesn't sound like there's even really much of a script so much as it was like a planned vacation.
Yeah, it's just a lot of shitty jokes strewn together, and the plot lines. It's just kind of the laziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But just like, hey, here's this plot line. I think my husband might be cheating with our nanny, but I can't get him. I'm sending him all these texts, and he's not getting back to me, and I can't get him on the phone. And why isn't he getting back to me? And they get back home, and he's like, oh, no, it's fine. We're never going to explain why I didn't get back to you. And then Annie's gay, so you don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, okay, that's yeah.
So basically it's a sitcom. It's a 2.5 hour, terribly written sitcom.
It aspires to be as fluid as a sitcom is. It's really, really bad.
Doesn't she also fly halfway around the world and then run into an old flame?
Yeah. It's like people just materialize out of nowhere.
John Corbett.
When convenient for the plot.
Yeah, there's another Dutch architect. They're just chilling out in the middle of the fucking wherever the hell desert they are. And
Abu Dhabi.
Dutch architect comes rolling over the dunes on a beach buggy, shirt halfway unbuttoned. I love the desert; it's so arousing to me. And just
to be fair, if you're Dutch, you're legally required to do that wherever you go. So.
And that led to Samantha saying he's Lawrence of my labia, which is
So there you go. There is your quintessential line from that movie.
And not to dwell on it too much, I do think some people had a point that movie is getting really lambasted for being awful, but it's also a little bit. People are going so far above and beyond. There are plenty of male-oriented action movies that are just as bad as that one is. So
yeah,
there's a little bit of a double standard, maybe, but it's still a friggin'ly bad movie. Friggin'ly bad movie.
Frigidly bad.
Frigidly?
Frigidly. Well, that's the thing, though. So we got a couple of emails floating around and like forum comments and whatnot from people saying, why didn't you have a woman review that movie, since that's very much the target audience and, that's who it's going to. One, I don't want to just like have random people review things just based on gender. That's not really how I feel about things.
I am a woman in my particular relationship. But.
Yeah, no, I know that someone else was wearing the pants and you're wearing the chaps. But secondly, like, most of the reviews of that movie I've read by women have been savage.
I mean,
savage. Like the review on the Stranger by Lindy West is one of the single greatest pieces of like film writing I have ever seen. There's like a line where she says, "This movie takes everything I hold dear as a woman and just as a human being and rapes it to death with a stiletto that costs more than my car." And that, like, and just goes on and on about like just what an absolutely superficial piece of just god awful shit this movie is.
It's a movie that did not need to exist because, as far as I hear, the first one kind of wrapped everything up pretty well.
Yeah.
In terms of the storylines of the characters.
She got married, and like she married, Mr. Big.
It's so far away from the life that I think people actually lead. Like, there's one point, Charlotte cries because her daughter gets her skirt, like finger paint on her skirt, and it's a piece of vintage cloth. And why the fuck are you wearing vintage skirt while you're
Around
cooking
young children.
and baking and like finger painting? Like, why? You're retarded. That's
not a good idea.
The entire movie is about how retarded these characters are, but it takes them very seriously, which is a very weird mindfucky way to see a movie. I don't know.
I don't feel good about anything that movie does. But as a zombie movie, I don't know. Do you think it's better than Survival of the Dead? Because Survival of the Dead isn't even a particularly great zombie movie.
I haven't seen Survival of the Dead myself. I would, of course, I'd prefer to see Survival of the Dead.
At any point, do you get to see Kim Cattrall's zombie vagina in that movie?
Askew. An askew glance. She's rubbing it with moisturizer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not even kidding.
Thankfully, there's not, and sadly enough, there's nothing even that level of disgusting in Survival of the Dead. It is like the most boring, uninteresting zombie movie I can remember having watched.
Wow.
That's the Hatfields and the McCoys one.
Yeah, it's like two Irish families on an island warring. Like, one side wants to kill all the zombies on the island, the other side wants to protect them because they're their own, and they want there to be a cure. And then like they bring in like these side characters from Diary of the Dead to sort of like be the kind of go-between. But it's just a mess. Like, it's a whole bunch of characters and nobody's interesting.
They're really mining the rich of the dead fiction, aren't they?
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, like, for a long time George Romero didn't make these movies, and then around the time that people started caring about zombies again, he made Land of the Dead, which was flawed, not so great, but at least kind of watchable. They made Diary of the Dead, which was an interesting idea, but was not a particularly good movie.
That was like the home video one, right?
Yeah, that was the one that was all like YouTube video style. And then the Survival of the Dead is just dumb. Like, it's just boring, and it tries to go for these like sort of Sam Raimi like horror comedy moments from time to time. Like, there's a shot where a zombie gets shot in the face, and then the skull cap just just flops around on the neck, like what's like it just sort of like a spinning
like
plate.
Three Stooges kind of style.
Yeah, and then there's like another shot where he shoots a zombie with a flare gun. The flare gun the zombie starts catching on fire. He walks up and lights his cigarette with like the flaming zombie. Like, there are a couple of good moments like that, but most of the time it's just a lot of people walking around brooding and wondering what to do with zombies, and it's not funny.
Don't you know what to do with zombies?
You
at this
shoot
point? Yeah,
zombies.
Dude, get a shotgun.
And it's like I don't think like all this sort of like moralistic, is it right to kill these things? Can we train them? Can we teach them? Like, that's not interesting to me. As a horror movie fan, I want zombies to be scary, or at least, like there'd be some kind of action going on.
Zombies aren't people. Come on.
And the acting's terrible, and it's like the script is just like, it just keeps loading in all these characters that it has no idea what to do with, and it's just a mess. I felt really bad watching because I love George Romero.
I was tired of zombies like 2 or 3 years ago, to be honest with you.
A lot of people are.
Like World War Z, okay, that was fun. Dead Rising was great, but nowadays it's like every 3 months there's another stupid zombie movie that comes
understand,
out.
I'm a man with a zombie tattoo, so it's like I have a certain affection.
Well, you have zombies in your family too.
I do, yeah. I have a lot of zombies in my family.
Way back up the family tree.
Yeah, and so the zombie thing it goes pretty deep for me, but even I can sense a certain level of weariness even from like George Romero in watching that movie. Like, maybe he's kind of done with this.
I think I want a zombie porn parody to kind of just finish it. You know all those porn parodies they do?
They
the
made
Flintstones and shit?
they made Left for Head, right?
Oh yeah, it's been done.
It was an
like
internet.
2 years ago.
want it. I want it
No,
bad.
no,
think
it's really fucking bad.
Okay.
It's
I think
really
I
fucking
could
bad.
probably send it to you.
It's not good. It's really bad. It's. I mean, it's just not sexy like it should be, Jack. It's just not sexy. But yeah, I mean, that's. I don't know.
So that's in limited release, right?
It's a limited release. I don't think it's going to do terribly well, even in limited
Well,
release.
those movies are made for like $10 million, and
If
they
that,
get
yeah.
all their stuff back on DVD.
Yeah.
Well, Sex and the City didn't do that well either. It was like third place. I think.
Well, yeah, it made like 30, 40 something.
Like that. It was $100 million movie plus like probably
I think
another-
90.
how
I
do
think it
you
was
s-
90 million was the budget.
How
but
do
yeah.
you spend $90 million on a movie like that?
You go to Morocco for 4 months.
Bizarre.
My
It's
God,
really
man.
weird. It's a lot of probably like Jimmy Choo consulting money. Like,
Yeah.
give me $300,000 and I'll give you 2 shoes or whatever. It's
just-
that kind of stuff.
It's just kind of a mess. And yeah, that movie didn't do so great. And another movie that didn't do so great is one that you and I saw, Brad, which is
Yes.
Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
The Sands of Time.
The Sands of Time.
Yes.
the obvious like we want a sequel to this movie, so we're gonna
Yeah,
give it a
let's-
subtitle
let's-
right
let's
off
give
the bat.
Let's give it a very presumptuous subtitle.
Yeah, I mean that is the Bruckheimer way.
It worked for Pirates. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it may not work for this one. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not. So what did you think of it, Brad? before
I didn't
watched
hate
anything?
it. I played the Sands of Time game, and then I kind of took a couple games off.
Yeah.
Came back for the most recent two. So I liked the Prince of Persia games.
Yeah.
It felt like a real movie and not just a video game adaptation.
Exactly.
Like it.
Which is weird because it was written by Jordan Mechner, who
Yeah, who
created.
actually
Well, it was
created the
to be
whole
fair, it
series.
was written by like 5 people
yeah, true.
at some
Plus,
point, but he
that's
wrote the
also the Bruckheimer way.
Yeah, he wrote the story script. So, but yeah, and I agree. It felt there were definitely times when I was watching that movie and it was like the video game thing left my mind completely,
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
is a rare thing with those movies.
It took about 20 minutes because they front load it with so much stuff that's straight out of the games.
Yeah.
Like they assault that fortress at the beginning, and the camera literally like sort of pans and then locks on each piece of machinery they need to like fiddle with to get into the fortress. Like,
Yeah.
dude, come on.
It's pretty. I thought that was pretty great, actually.
I know. I mean, it's kind of a wink nudge sort of thing.
Like
but it's
like
little
the
bit-
Doom first person segment.
Yeah,
kind of,
it is. That is totally the
that
first person
realm.
segment of this movie. Yeah,
But
and there's also there was such a blatant Assassin's Creed shot where he stands on the little post like jutting out from
Yep.
the top of a building,
Yeah,
and the camera just like pans all
that was
the way
the
around.
trailer shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
From looking at it though, it didn't look like the trailers had that kind of that must see moment, like effects moment that you see. Like in the 2012 trailer, they have like, oh, here's the White House getting blown up or whatever.
Yeah.
The aircraft carrier kind of every effects driven movie needs to have that kind of like
I guess it's the
Is it the scene? I
the
guess
temple kind of collapsing.
the
and
collapsing
everything is,
temple
like-
scene is probably like
that's
the
in the
closest to
trailer.
that, and
it
that's
just looked like a bunch of sand in the trailer. Though.
Yeah, that's kind of all it is.
It's an okay, like that's an okay scene. Honestly, the better stuff, and generally speaking, the combat is not the most compelling thing about that movie because some of the sword battles are kind of like rote and not that interesting.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of like complex choreography there.
No, but a lot of the like acrobatic stuff that Jake Gyllenhaal or whoever his stuntman is were doing sort of early on in that battle scene, and then some of the stuff where they're fighting like the Black Ops, like sort of evil
Yeah.
Persian mystics.
Yeah.
That shit was really cool. Like they had those like there is a scene where a dude gets stabbed in the face by a snake. Like
right.
that happens
Yeah.
at one point in that movie, and I was
was
like,
pretty good.
That was pretty awesome.
Reminds me of my days in Arabia.
Yeah. So that was pretty good, and Alfred Molina is really, really good.
He's
in
probably
it.
the best thing.
He's
in the
never
movie.
not good though.
Yeah, I mean he's basically sort of doing the Salah thing, where like he's the comic relief
Totally, yeah.
character, but he's this total like sort of vagabond like grifter type, but he like runs ostrich races.
He's got a weird Bruckheimer thing because he's going to be in
Yeah, he's in
last
Sorcerer's Apprentice also.
too,
It's the
so.
bad guy in that.
Yeah, he's like this weird like desert libertarian in that movie. Like,
Yeah,
he's
it's
constantly
great.
railing on like taxation and
government
like, small
conspiracies.
business ownership and stuff.
He invented the Tea Party apparently.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I liked it. Like
It's fun fluff. I mean,
Totally.
it won't stick with you. Like I did not wake up the next day and think about it at all.
the only thing I woke up thinking about was Gemma Arterton personally, and that's because
She is.
I wish she had more to do in
Yeah, I
any
don't
movie,
know.
really, because she's so hot and she's so like you can tell there is a good actress under there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just that like she's saddled in every movie with this just ponderous long-winded dialogue where she has to explain to the audience every painstaking bit of mythology and whatever. It was the same thing in Clash of the Titans.
If she wasn't so busy acting like stupid nobility.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just like the regalness is so fucking forced upon.
Yeah, delivery is a little bit,
And her and Jake Gyllenhaal had zero chemistry in that movie. I did not.
Yeah, the other I haven't seen it, but the trailer beats with them just seemed really like that moment where he's like trying to come up with the words just seems so stupid.
Well, it's like I literally link in the review like the Legend of Zelda cartoon part where it's just like, "Excuse me, princess," like that.
There's definitely a lot of that
over and over again. I kept waiting for that line to actually come out of his mouth during that movie.
How long was it? Like 2.5, 2:20?
About 2 hours.
It was about 2 hours.
Good. I'm so tired of the 2.5 hour time.
It still
slot.
could have been about 10 or 15 minutes shorter, frankly. Like if they cut back on a few of like the big sweepy like set piece shots and like some of the more lame wad dialogue.
It moved pretty well.
It did move at a pretty good
I
clip.
don't feel like it dragged at any point, and they conveyed a lot of information pretty efficiently.
If they were going to extrapolate on anything, I would have liked more with Ben Kingsley because he's really not very well used in the movie. Like they let his eyeliner do all the.
Man.
His guyliner is basically what signifies how evil he is.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in the Dungeons and Dragons movie as a bad guy or
No,
something?
it was Blood Rain.
Blood Rain. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, Dungeons and Dragons was Jeremy Irons.
Ooh,
Yeah.
some in there.
Yeah,
Well,
Jeremy, he was so over the top in that movie. Yeah, I wish Ben Kingsley in this movie was anything like Jeremy Irons in Dungeons and Dragons. He was amazing in
Well,
that.
I think the one that we all saw in the Name of the King with Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta is the evil wizard. Yeah,
We were drunk as hell.
yeah. No, we got super drunk going into that movie.
got
and
shushed too.
Yeah, many
A few
times.
times I got shushed.
There
Someone
were
just
people who
taking it
were
seriously.
there for the plot of In the Name of the King. God, In the Name of the King. I just let's reminisce about that for a second. Not to belabor it too much,
wow.
but there are so many moments in that movie where I nearly fell out of my chair laughing.
Anything where Matthew Lillard shows up is like, I can just imagine Uwe Boll just more,
Yes.
Matthew, more.
Can you sneer some more?
I didn't know he was in that.
Yeah.
Is that what his career has come to?
Pretty much.
Well, it had Jason Statham was in it.
I
Who's
was
the
just
king?
looking for a paycheck.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds is the fucking king in that movie.
Ray Liotta.
Claire
Claire
Forlani.
Forlani, terrible actress.
Claire Forlani.
Lily Sobieski. Like he gets a bunch of people I know at least. Not huge stars.
The thing
or
I'll say for Claire Forlani in that movie, apart from the fact she's awful in it, is that there's one scene in the middle of the movie, which I have dubbed the Claire Forlani face, where she like has to be like just grieved and like upset. And like her entire face just balloons like a puffish. Like it's just like her eyes go wide, her mouth just drops. It's like
It's a defense mechanism. It's designed to ward off predators.
Screen Community. If anyone out there has the DVD of In the Name of the King, sadly I don't. If you can get a screen capture of that face that I'm talking about and put it somewhere on the website, I will give you points.
Better yet, an animated GIF.
He's
An
so
animated- yeah.
bad.
Animated GIF would be even better.
Because I will admit that I like Meet Joe Black as a film, but she kills that movie in so many different ways. Like,
Well, she's just not good. I mean,
she's
she's
a
just not a
bad
good actress. She's incredibly fetching, I'll say, but as an actress, she's not much of anything.
yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about Uwe Boll for now.
Yeah.
But
Hey man, you want a good video game movie? You got to go right to the source.
indeed. So yeah, Prince of Persia, probably the best produced video game movie of all time.
Oh, easily. I wonder what the budget was. Do you have any idea?
$150 million.
15 or 50?
$150 million.
Wow.
I think Box Office Mojo
Oh.
said 200.
Well, our site says 150, so we'll figure out which.
Yeah.
But
Man, for like an unproven, like first time IP.
Well, it's good nowadays for like 200 million is like the minimum for. I remember when
for a
people
blockbuster, yeah.
like Superman Forever was like, oh my god, $300 million for this movie, but now
They made the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy for $300 million.
yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
insane.
Well, New Zealand, they gave them
okay,
a
I'm
lot
sure.
of
Well,
Yeah,
and
that
also they
helps.
shot everything at once.
That
you know
helps,
that
that
helped
helps.
a
Yeah,
lot.
sure.
So, but yeah, that's an expensive movie. I don't think was it. I think it's like up to 80 million internationally.
Yeah.
now.
It did really well internationally.
Yeah, so that's good. I kind of hope that movie does make some money because it is at least quality enough that I would like more video game movies to at least try and go in that direction.
gives hope back to that.
Yeah.
That whole genre.
It gives hope that Resident Evil Afterlife is almost guaranteed to just suck back, from the world and
In 3D though.
and stab to death in 3D.
There has to be balance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need the yang to this movie's yin.
Yeah, and in that case, Mila Jovovich is the yang.
Sure.
well,
so-
then now I just read that they're bringing the woman who played
Jill Valentine.
Jill Valentine back.
Yeah.
She's a no-name actress. I have no clue who she is.
Oh, really? Wait. Jill Valentine from the second one?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that girl was awful.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I knew they were bringing
Pleasing
back
to the eye.
I knew they were bringing back Ali Larder to play Claire Redfield. I did not know they were bringing back the girl from the second.
Yeah,
one.
it's like and for people who watch these movies but have like none of these names mean anything. I don't even remember any of the supporting characters from the third one. All I remember is that at the end of it, they unleash like an army full of what's her face Alice's, like a million clone Alice's, and apparently in this movie they're just
spoilers for Resident Evil Apocalypse.
yeah, whatever. Apparently in this movie there's. I from what I've read of the synopsis so far, they don't appear, or they're kind of like, hey, it's kind of like it's kind of like when Buffy made a million Buffy clones at the end of that series, and then
I think there is at least one other. At least from watching the trailer, it looked like there was at least one other Alice running around.
Is she an evil Alice? I bet she is.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait for that movie. So yeah, all right. Now I'm no longer talking about video game movies. I want to talk about a movie I wish was a video game, which Mr. Lopez and I saw on Friday night at midnight. Mr. Lopez, what did we see on Friday night at midnight?
We saw Gone with the Pope at San Francisco's Bridge Theater, and I was stupid enough to take my girlfriend.
Oh yeah. Now, how?
Do you mean your former girlfriend?
Yeah. How did that
Pretty
go?
close
How did at first? How did she take it? And two, what is this movie about?
We didn't speak on the ride home.
Okay.
Pretty much.
She seemed to be laughing. I don't know.
They were, she was humoring me.
All
pretty
right,
much,
fair enough.
Sometimes you have to laugh to fight back the tears.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about what Gone with the Pope is, so people understand the depravity at work here.
Yeah, all right. So it was a movie that was begun and never really finished, I guess, back in, the 70s?
1975,
Yeah, and it's just this ridiculous exploitation film of a man who takes his, I guess, girlfriend's yacht to Italy and kidnaps
From LA.
the Pope. Yes,
He
from
takes a
LA.
yacht from
That's right.
LA to Italy.
Yeah, and if I'm struggling to explain this movie, it's because it makes absolutely no damn sense.
No, it just sort of jumps from scenario to scenario. Like he's this mob hitman, this the actor, writer, director Duke Mitchell, who
Producer.
is apparently, according to Wikipedia, known as Mr. Palm Springs because he used to.
The king of Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
No, he's been dead since '81.
Okay.
But he had like some comedy duo stuff fame in the like late '50s, and I guess he did some voice work on the Flintstones. And then he decided he was going to be like a grindhouse director, so he made this movie called Massacre Mafia Style, which, if you haven't seen, is I finally went and saw that a few months ago, and it's a fucking clusterfuck of a mafia hitman movie. He doesn't play the same character in this one, but he plays a similar type of character in this one. So he starts out as a mafia hitman who gets out of prison, and then he is sort of tasked with killing 7 people for no discernible reason. So he gets his buddy to help him. So his buddy kills a few of them. He kills a few, and there's just like this weird montage sequence of him just running around shooting dudes. And then after that's over with, he's hanging out with this wealthy widow who I guess he sort of used to be involved with. Very loosely tied into the whole thing. They go on some really nice dates for a while. And then at some point he's like, I'm going to take your boat for a few months. And then he gets on a boat with like some of his ex-con buddies. They go to Italy, and he lets them know he has this plan. And his plan is to kidnap the Pope.
Was the Pope number 7?
No, Pope was not number 7.
Okay, so he finished with all that.
He finished with
business.
all that, and then he
Okay.
just decided to hatch the scheme where he's going to kidnap the Pope for no real reason other than he wants money. And so he demands $1 from every Catholic in the world.
Can I just go back 1 second?
Yeah.
You were talking about the really nice dates they go on,
Yeah.
which include, the standard kind of thing of dinner, going to an amusement park, and riding on the merry-go-round, but also including watching children at a BMX bike park.
Yeah, like they're at like a skate park, and there were all
Yeah.
these like biker dudes running around. It was sort of weird. So the movie then lets him kidnap the Pope fairly easily, I might add. Not really a terribly difficult task. And then some stuff happens, and then they decide to let the Pope go, and then he goes back, finds out his buddy who helped him murder those other people got killed by the bosses, so then he goes running around shooting all these bosses, and then the movie just kind of ends.
Yeah. It was really
They,
tough to get the filming permission
Yeah.
at St. Peter's Basilica.
Did
Yeah.
they-
really
did-
tough.
Did they? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did they cast anybody notable in the role in the role of Pope?
No.
No.
There's nobody notable in this movie.
All right.
Actually, no, there is one very notable role in the movie, and that is I forget the name of the actress, but the role is the Fat Woman.
That woman.
The Fat Woman is a fat woman who is violently stripped naked by Duke Mitchell and this other dude, and they sort of pretend like they're going to have sex with her, and then they run out of the room, and she comes barreling through a door at one point. It's,
Still,
To have
Yeah.
sex with them?
I guess,
Okay.
We don't really know. I mean, she literally rips the door off the
perfectly
hinges.
nonsensical.
it's pure exploitation cinema. Like, there's a scene where they're just throwing random racial epithets at this, this African American prostitute girl, and then she just decides she's going to fuck them anyway. And like at one point, like she's taking off, her clothes, and like she's sort of standing in front of him, pelvis facing him while he's on a couch, and he just kind of looks at it and goes, "Looks like Brillo," and it's there you go.
Wow.
So the real interesting thing about this movie is not so much the movie itself. The movie itself is a riot. It's hilarious. It's a bizarre fucking experience. But the real thing is that it was never finished. Like, it was just sitting in a box somewhere. Like Duke Mitchell's son had all the reels that had been shot. And this dude, Bob Murawski, who is a professional film editor and has worked on stuff like all the Spider-Man movies and also The Hurt Locker. Like, he won an Oscar for The Hurt Locker. Is also a co-owner of this company called Grindhouse Releasing, and they put out all these fucking ridiculous Grindhouse movies, in theaters and like on DVD and whatnot. And so, they wanted to release Massacre Mafia style, but the son didn't know where that stuff was. He's like, "Here, I have this box of shit that my dad worked on. Do you want to just see what you can do with it?" So over the course of 15 years, in his spare time, Bob Murawski took this movie and tried to edit it into something that was a movie.
And here it is.
And here it is.
What an auspicious way to follow up your Oscar win.
I know, right? Like, apparently the movie premiered the same week as the Oscars.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and it's like there were reels missing. Like, there were 5 reels of the 17 they shot that were missing.
So did they just edit around that stuff? How
I
did
think
How
so.
did they clean that up?
I think they just had to.
Oh man, those 5 reels would have made all the difference.
Totally. I mean, like, apparently there's no story script. It was all just like handwritten notes that Duke Mitchell had done. Like, they had to do all this like original audio because like so much of the audio track was fucked up. And yeah, it is an absolutely amazing film project, if nothing else. And it is currently touring around doing the midnight movie circuit, which, if you get the chance to see it, I think you
Oh,
should.
totally hit that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just don't bring your girlfriend, right?
Yeah, just
well, or bring a girlfriend who's a little more into really dumb cinema, because it's exploitation. It's shitty. It's a willfully shitty movie, and that's why you go see something like that.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
agreed.
That's my word on it.
So other than that, I didn't really watch much else this weekend. I did finish watching The Pacific finally, which tied into another feature that just went up on the site by our new contributor, Eric Pope, who is
Gone with the Eric Pope.
Gone with the Eric Pope. He will, and very, very fortuitous. He will be doing some freelancing for us, and he wrote a very nice piece about how The Pacific stacks up against Band of Brothers. And that went up on Memorial Day, which is fitting.
It's just hard to top Band of Brothers. I mean,
It really
that's-
is.
It's almost an impossible task. Of course, they kind of set themselves up for it being the same production team, another 10-episode miniseries. So.
But yeah, I mean, I think the point that Pope makes is very true, which is that it's just 2 very different kinds of storytelling.
Yeah.
Because Band of Brothers was very much about one group of guys that you're following the whole way through. The Pacific is like, here's these 3 stories that are only sort of tangentially related. And then, like, for whole episodes, you don't hear anything about one of them, and then it's just kind of, like, back and forth. There's, like, a lot of episodes where not very much happens, and then there's others where it's just, like, nonstop, fucked up, just brutal battle sequences. It's just, it's definitely, like, it feels a lot more war-weary than Band of Brothers did.
A lot of Japanese people running towards machine guns and getting cut down. A lot of that.
Yeah, like there are shots where you'll see like a guy, flicking rocks into the, cracked open skull of a dead Japanese soldier. It's just that kind of brutal shit. And I took a break from it because like after episode 6, I was kind of not necessarily feeling it as much. But everyone kept telling me the last 4 episodes were amazing. You have to jump in on this. So I watched it, and the end of it is much more interesting because it focuses way more heavily on the Eugene Sledge character, who's like the young boy that comes in, fresh-faced, ready
The
for
heart
war.
palpitation guy?
Yeah, the guy who has like the heart murmur. And like the transition that character makes throughout the series is absolutely soul crushing.
Don't
the,
tell me. I've only seen 2
No,
episodes. so-
I'm not going to say what happened, but it's. I mean, we won the war. Spoilers for Pacific. We won.
Really?
Yeah.
What are the 2 books that the series is based on? I know there's
One.
Memoirs, I think.
Yeah, one is Eugene Sledge's memoirs. The other one is John Bazelon.
Yeah.
Who is the guy who, you know, like he Guadalcanal is the hero of Guadalcanal, and then he goes back to the States and like sells war bonds. And that's sort of like where I kind of lost it. It was like whenever they would intercut with John Bazelon and stuff, it's like he's awesome in the early going of the series, but like all the stuff of him just being back in the U.S. selling war bonds isn't really very interesting to watch.
See the guy who's writing home to Vera or something?
No, that's Lecky. Yeah, that's the
problem
third
with these
character.
Yeah, that's the problem with these because there's also John Seda too.
Well, no, he's Bazelon.
Okay, I just call it Charlie. Hey, Mickey,
Yeah.
whatever. Here's a guy with the runs. Here's a guy who looks like John Cena from Oz.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's how I keep them all separate.
Yeah, but
Which is weird. I don't feel like the first 2 episodes that I've seen. I don't feel they do a very I know it's one of your complaints too. They don't do a very good job of separating out the characters very much. Like at least in Band of Brothers, you had like the wisecracking Brooklyn guy and the guy who wants to be a writer and the guy who, you know, the Captain Spears or whatever.
Right.
Here it feels like they're all kind of shades of gray.
well, it's just all shades of depressed.
Yes.
I mean, one way or another. Like they're all depressed about something, and they're all, like there isn't really that sort of like. There's less caricature, which is in some ways a good thing, but in others, like just in trying to keep track of what's going on, it's a lot tougher. Yeah.
I'll be curious. I want to finish it off, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a series worth seeing, and you know certainly something you'll want to get your dad for Father's Day once it comes out on Blu-ray, because you know that's just what you do when one of those miniseries comes out.
Here's a collector's 10.
if you haven't seen either one of these, if you were only going to watch one,
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers,
Band of Brothers.
definitely the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and again, I think the thing with Band of Brothers is that there's just a much more heartfelt story at the center of it, like with some of the core Easy Company characters. Whereas with Pacific, it's much more about the brutality and the sort of, you know, kind of pathos that sort of goes along with war. So I think as just, you know, as a piece of fiction, Band of Brothers is stronger.
Well,
It's not fiction, is it?
Well, you know, I'm based on a true story fiction.
Yeah.
I felt that the Pacific was actually the stronger war story. It, I mean, the Pacific War was a lot different than the European theater, and the Pacific really demonstrated that you know the horrors of war and all that entails. So I really enjoyed it, and I felt that it was actually a better war movie, and the other one was a better, you know, kind of get to know these characters and, you know.
Well, I think the other was a better miniseries.
Yeah.
Whereas if the other one had been sort of made into a war movie, like just about the Eugene Sledge character or something, it would have been really, really good. Or even about Lecky. But at the same time, like the Bazelon stuff felt kind of tacked on. If you know, I mean, it made sense so that they could actually show the Guadalcanal stuff, because like none of those other characters even enter the war really much until, you know, Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
So, but it's still it just doesn't feel as coherent to me.
It seems almost like the geography of those theaters would kind of influence the way the story flows, because you know, in the Pacific, it's like, you know, you're on one discrete landmass and then another, as opposed to, you know, in Europe, you know, you're charting a linear trajectory across a landscape.
Well, the interesting thing though is that like yeah, I mean, like for instance, like they spend an absolute ton of time on, I think, Peleliu, which is where the airfield is, and like there are like several episodes that take part on that one, where there are others where they're just like there for a day and then gone or whatever. There's like, and there's one whole episode where they just spend leave time in Australia, and it's just there so Lecky can meet a girl and then have his heart broken, and it's kind of like, all right, you know, this could have been a third of an episode. It didn't need to be an entire episode.
Well, even Band of Brothers had kind of like the one of the downtime episodes too. I think you just can't have like 10 episodes where people are dying and killing every time. But if you want to watch a Guadalcanal movie, you probably haven't seen it. I still recommend The Thin Red Line. Really, really cerebral for a war movie. It is
like Terrence Malick, right?
It is a slow, like 2.5 hour, if not longer, movie. It might be over 3.
I had a hard time with that one.
It's tough. It's definitely tough, but it's It is. It's a I can't even say well told. It's a tone poem in movie form. So it's not up everybody's alley, I recognize, but it's really good.
Didn't that come out right around the same time as Private Ryan?
Yeah,
I seem to remember them being. Yeah, they kind of were positioned as like contemporaries. Like, here's two World War II movies.
Very, very different tacks.
Totally,
obviously
different.
Spielberg is a master storyteller in his own way. It's very much like, here's a story that I will tell you. Thin Red Line is not so much a story as kind of a record of a feeling, I guess. It's a really interesting movie, though. I think people enjoy it if you give it a chance, but probably not.
Yeah,
nobody really liked it.
I saw it. I haven't watched it in a really long time, and maybe I should again. But I remember at the time just being like totally put off by it.
Terrence Malick is a difficult filmmaker. He doesn't really kowtow to standards of cohesion.
Well, sometimes
I
like that though. Like I liked The New World. Like sort of inexplicably, I really like that movie, but there are other times when I find his stuff like barely watchable.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone, but yeah, give it a chance.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I watched this weekend. I also watched a little bit of some more of The Wire. I'm starting to dig deeper and deeper into it.
Omar Little.
Is this your first time?
This is my first time. So I'm finished with the first season. I'm halfway through the second season now.
I like second season a lot.
Yeah, second season's weird because
people complain and bitch about where the fucking gangsters at, man.
I actually stopped after the first season and kind of lost momentum because everybody was like, oh, they go to a totally new area.
Yeah, it's fine.
New characters. I was like,
Amy Ryan's like that was one of her first like breakout.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that I was totally confused by who the hell all these white people were like at the beginning of it, but at the same time, like once the story got going, I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. I like this. So yeah, I'm digging in for the first time. And
do they kind of bring it all together in the subsequent seasons?
No, it's more of a standalone kind of thing. Well, Amy Ryan's character comes back.
Spoilers
here and there. I don't really think they mention too much about the longshoremen at all after the second season, but they're all like the first and third season are kind of similar, but then apart from that, the second, fourth, and fifth are all kind of their own things.
Their own standalone deals.
So it's fine. It's really interesting. They're slice of life from different parts of Baltimore.
Okay.
It's just a thing that you can like. I don't know.
Has anyone seen Treme yet? And see, I set it up to TiVo. The problem was I moved literally the day that that show started airing, and so like I haven't had a chance to like go back on demand and watch all that stuff yet.
Yeah,
and I hear it's great. I hear it's amazing.
Good things. It's got Bunk. I like Bunk.
But it's like literally the only negative things I read about that show are from people who just wanted The Wire again. So I don't want that. I would like something different. So. Because The Wire was basically just an extension of Homicide: Life on the Street, but with more edge,
gritty,
much more edge. So I don't know.
If you like The Wire, check out Homicide: Life on the Street. Why don't you?
You should,
or at least the first two seasons.
Oh, I don't know. I think other than like the last two seasons, that show
got pretty good.
Is completely great throughout. Yeah. So there you go. Anyone else watch anything of note this weekend?
I watched a few on-demand movies. I tried to watch a few at least. There's some that I just started, and I started watching this movie called Good Dick, which
I've heard of this. I don't know anything about it, though.
It started off really creepy. Like there's about this girl who it's like two people who wrote and directed it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy and girl. A girl who like rents porn from a video store, and the guy at the video store really likes her, but she's really awkward and hard to talk to. So he gets her address out of the machine and goes over there. And
it's a surefire tactic.
Yeah, it's like that's the creepiest thing I've ever heard.
I don't know. I've never thought of this before.
Yeah, I don't know. So I tried to watch that. I shut it off after about half an hour.
On-demand delivery really makes it so easy to write stuff off.
Like, whatever. It's bullshit.
Like I tried to watch The Girlfriend Experience a couple weeks ago, and I got like 5 or 10 minutes into it, and I was just like, man,
I've seen this vagina before, but
but in far more interesting situations, frankly.
But also, like as soon as I saw the word experimental in the description, I should have known that it was not really my cup of tea.
No, what you should watch is Bubble by Soderbergh. Bubble is a really, really interesting movie.
Oh, that's about like laborers or like factory workers or something.
Weird. It made for like $100,000.
Yeah.
So, Girlfriend Experience. Soderbergh, people know him as like Ocean's 11 guy and that kind of stuff.
And Out of Sight and things like that.
He does really, really weird experimental movies, of which The Girlfriend Experience is one. But Bubble is set in like this factory border town in West Virginia or something.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of casting actors, he just went into this doll factory and said, I want you, you, and you to be in my movie. So totally untrained actors without really a script. He just kind of set them up and, hey, here's what the scene is about. I want you to go through this stuff. and they just kind of talked it out, like totally untrained actors, no artificial lighting. It's all like their little shitty, mobile homes with the fluorescent lights on top.
Yeah,
like 70 minutes long. It's not, and it's amazingly poorly acted, obviously, but when you know what went into the making of the film and how he approached it, it's kind of a weird cinema verite kind of experiment. You get a lot out of it compared to what is actually on the screen, I guess. Has a really interesting commentary track too. You can't get it on Netflix, obviously, which if they ever add commentary tracks to Netflix, I will be a happy camper.
That is the end of the world at that point. Yeah,
they never will.
That's the end game scenario.
But yeah, Bubble's really, really interesting. If you I always for an experimental film, I would go that way.
I'm just very frequently put off by those kind of movies because, like, while I appreciate the sort of artistry that goes on behind them, I never find the product really that compelling. Like, a lot of Gus Van Sant stuff kind of tends to go in that direction. I don't know if anyone saw Elephant, but like that's a pretty good example of like him trying to make his high school shooting movie and trying to make it like so hyper authentic that at some point it just kind of turns into bullshit. I don't know. It's just like a lot of non-actors, a lot of local kids, and like these sort of ridiculous caricatures of, the Trenchcoat Mafia sort of doing their thing. Like he adds like a weird gay love scene between them that just makes no fucking sense. Yeah. And it's like it's just a movie where like a camera follows a bunch of kids while they're at high school.
Well, there's something to be said for. I'm actually reading a book called The Way Hollywood Tells It by I forget his name, but he makes a point that the best, what we think of as experimental films, the ones that really do well, are the ones that kind of have traditional elements to them, but explore other non-traditional ways of telling stories, like Memento or The Matrix or whatever.
Yeah,
they're recognizable as films, but they don't go so far off the rails. At some point, when you get to the avant-garde stage of making a movie, you're kind of admitting that you're not really going to be appealing to a large majority of your audience. And
or you're celebrating it if you're like, say, Harmony Korine or something. So.
And I would say The Thin Red Line is almost at that avant-garde stage.
It's close.
Where it's really tough for a lot of people to get into. Not necessarily it's not really hard to understand where he's going with it, but the way he tells that movie is difficult to... You need to be in a certain frame of mind in order to really appreciate it. So,
yeah. Oh, experimental cinema.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else?
Indeed.
Anything else out there?
I watched some stuff, but I don't know if it's very interesting.
Oh, come on.
In the context of this podcast, I probably watched 3 to 4 hours of the Ken Burns Civil War documentary.
That's cool.
I haven't seen it.
That's on Netflix now too, right?
Pushing 20 years now. Yeah, it's actually newly added to Netflix.
That's awesome.
That's why I'm watching it.
That is stylistically one of the defining documentaries of like the last 30 years.
It's amazing if you use iMovie on the Mac or whatever. Like there is a Ken Burns effect which scrolls across still photographs, and like, dude, there's a lot of that in that documentary.
Quiet violin music.
That is an amazing documentary, and that is yet another thing that Netflix is really good for, is like these long documentary or like science series that like like the Carl Sagan's The Universe is on there.
Or Cosmos,
or the Cosmos, and that shit is fucking captivating. Because Carl Sagan, and just listening to him talk is like incredibly hypnotic because he's so stoned.
I know. It's, have you ever have you seen the YouTube videos comparing him and Agent Smith from The Matrix?
Yeah,
dude. Yeah,
it's just spot on. It's amazing.
Yeah,
we are just bubbles in the greater water of the universe.
Consider this apple pie.
I would like to consider this apple pie.
Yeah. God, there's that one episode where he goes of Cosmos where he goes to Italy to explain like what the world would be like at the speed of light.
Yeah,
and he's just like sitting around this like piazza, and there's like a Vespa and stuff, and I was eating dinner and I felt like I had just had 5 pot brownies or something.
Yeah, he is just this. He is a walking Quaalude, and it is completely awesome. I miss him terribly.
Well, Ken Burns a little more matter of fact.
Yes, much more so. But
I've never seen any of his more recent stuff. I mean,
no, he did the baseball.
He did Jazz,
National Parks.
I think.
Sorry, National Parks.
Yeah, he did the National Parks one, the one that was like funded, like co-funded by the U.S. government about our national park system.
He did one about jazz, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Is he still doing stuff? Is he still alive?
Well, the National Parks one was fairly recent. That was in the last couple of years. Yeah, okay. I remember seeing all the subway ads for it on when I was in New York. Like they were advertising the hell out of that thing. Yeah. So.
I don't know. This is just it's an interesting documentary to make about a time period for which you have like next to no source material,
right?
Visual source material. I mean, there's like stacks, mountains of books, but all you got are some photographs.
If you have a good filmmaker who understands how to make a narrative out of anything, it'll work. Like that's honestly why I'm sort of more I have a lot of trepidation about that Bill Hicks documentary that's coming out because there's not a lot of footage of him.
Yeah.
It's mostly like photos, and it's like if I really just want to listen to Bill Hicks, I'll just listen to Bill Hicks. I don't really need like there to be a narrative story going on behind it because I know most of what makes Bill Hicks' life tragic. So I don't know if that's going to make much of a documentary to me. But
I just like the Civil War because it inspired that Mr. Show bit where the Civil War enactors get to the campground where the reenactors get there and they discover there's already a Renaissance fair there.
Yeah,
and then the Star Trek people will walk up to with their phasers. That's good.
Mr. Show.
I'm gonna work in a Mr. Show reference to every podcast.
I'm good with that. Yeah. I'm totally good with that.
And it's all on YouTube too. They don't really. HBO just doesn't care. Like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't give a shit at all.
They're not really selling the DVDs anymore, I guess. So.
No, yeah. Anyone who was going to buy Mr. Show on DVD pretty much has. Okay, I'm just trying to think of anything. Well, I mean, some other things did happen over the course of the weekend. Mostly not good news. A couple of celebrity deaths that severely bummed me out. Dennis Hopper being the really big one, which I mean, he'd been sick for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't a huge surprise at this point.
No, it was going to happen, but at the same time. Easy Rider, man. Easy Rider. Yeah. It just sucks to know that he's gone.
And it makes you think about some of his contemporaries from back then, because if he is old enough to be dying, then that means people like Jack Nicholson are also.
He can't be that far behind.
He doesn't have a whole lot of time.
Peter
left.
Fonda is probably he's knocking on that door at this point.
Yeah, man, that's depressing.
Yeah, and then speaking of contemporaries of Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper, Gary Coleman also passed away this past weekend.
The great thespian.
Yeah, the great thespian Gary Coleman, the great asshole Gary Coleman. From if I read a lot of stuff on the internet, like a lot of people like not wanting to eulogize him in any particular way. Like
really?
There was someone was saying, I think Ryan was telling me like somewhere on UGO, like there was a guy talking about how when they did the big Gary Coleman benefit thing, like save his house or whatever.
Yeah.
Like working with him was a complete nightmare. So I don't know. Like the dude was obviously much more notable for like his tabloid exploits and whatever else than his actual acting career. But he was fucking Gary Coleman, man. It's a bummer.
Entertained.
It's still a bummer to hear about that.
Heartbroken after Michael Jackson died, no doubt.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you're thinking of the other one.
Who?
Emmanuel Lewis.
Lewis. Yeah. That's.
Is Emmanuel Lewis still alive?
That's Dwarfist.
Yeah, I think he's still around.
Is he tiny too?
Yeah, he's tiny. No, he's fine. Like he's actually. I think his life is in pretty good working order because he never got involved in anything too dumb. So
except for Michael Jackson.
Except for Michael Jackson, but is what it is.
What do you think was the single point at which the Gary Coleman Express just careened off the rails?
The security guard, I think, deal.
Him working as a security guard is a pretty good
at a mall.
Was that out of like necessity?
Yeah, it was just his job for a while.
Well, I mean, so something must have led up to that, right?
Yeah,
was it his parents like dicking him out of all his money?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much.
I think
what
he
it
had a
was.
bad agent. Yeah, so.
Yeah,
but I mean, he kind of. I don't think if you're a TV star in the early '80s, you necessarily made huge bank.
No, but even still, like when you're on a Norman Lear sitcom for any number of years, like there's money there.
Isn't that show in syndication?
Yeah, it's been in syndication forever. So, I can't pinpoint a specific moment. I think it's his career was a long series of massive missteps and unfortunate events. So whatever. He's gone now. Sad to say it.
Gone too soon.
Gone. No. Yeah. Yeah. Well, gone too soon in the sense that like it wasn't drugs or murder or anything else. He just dude fell off a step ladder and hurt his head. Like that sucks.
He had a different stroke.
Come on.
I am cutting that. And one other little bummer piece of news before we jump into emails here. So over the weekend, it was apparently announced that Guillermo del Toro no longer making The Hobbit.
Oh, I saw that.
Which
tragic.
Really kind of makes me not care about The Hobbit anymore.
Well, what if this forces Peter Jackson to just step in and direct?
I don't really want him to.
Really?
No. I think he's had his time with that stuff, and at the same time, I don't want to just watch more of that.
I don't want to watch more of it anyway. I didn't want to watch The Hobbit when Del Toro was directing. I really don't care about it at all. Like, whatever.
Especially, but I love Del Toro so much, and this is the thing.
I think he's better off making his own shit. To be honest with you,
yeah,
I mean, The Hobbit is going to be like, oh, here's my wacky creatures that I make. Like, just go out and do something interesting.
But his stuff is just going to be Hellboy 3. I mean, as much as I love Del Toro, and he does really amazing.
I don't think Hellboy 2 made enough money for them to ever make a Hellboy 3. To be honest with you, I think it did not do too well. I think he needs to find another franchise that he can like hop into and put his own spin on. Yeah. Why don't you give him like Mission Impossible 4 or something crazy like that?
I'm sure there's some Marvel property they could throw.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
They need
like Swamp Thing or something like that.
Yeah, there
have
you
him go crazy.
Kronos 2.
Oh God.
Well, the way they're handling the Hobbit project just kind of reeks of cash-in. I mean, it's not just the Hobbit. You know, they're abstracting. They're basically abstracting out an entire second movie's worth of content from nothing.
Is it New Line Cinema doing that?
I don't know whose call that was.
It's the same company that put out.
And it's really weird because they and Peter Jackson got in a big fight over royalties.
So the whole backstory is, and the whole reason this thing's going down in flames is because I forget how the rights are broken out, but half of it is owned by MGM.
Yeah,
and MGM is basically imploding right now.
Yeah, that's very true.
Massively.
I forget what the split is. You know, it's like one of them has the distribution rights and the other one has.
I think the Tolkien estate has some bearing on it too.
Just something like that. I'm not clear on it, but
it's all one of those weird rights things.
So I think that's the only reason Peter Jackson was even involved in this is because MGM got behind him.
And if he ever drops out, then it's basically dead. Like they might try to make some like shitty, I don't know, crappy Uwe Boll.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I read that they've done like a year and a half, 2 years of pre-production already. So I mean, they're pretty far along.
That when it comes to a big movie, like they had 3 separate directors attached to Superman Returns before that movie actually got made. They probably went through 10 years of pre-production on it with various people, and it's just like when you have the kind of bureaucracy you have in Hollywood studios, one studio, let alone 2. It can be a real killer to try to get a movie, especially when it's like we're going to bet $300 million on this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It becomes almost everybody has to have a say and everybody has to have their opinion heard, and it becomes impossible to do anything. At some point,
you could see how that kind of corporate inertia would sort of like plant a big fat boot heel on the creative momentum.
Yeah, and apparently he was just staying in New Zealand too. Like Del Toro is he Spanish?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's or Mexican. He was born in Guadalajara.
Yeah. But actually, I don't know what the reasoning was for this, but I read that the time commitment changed from 3 years to 6 years.
Yeah.
They basically told him that you have to live in New Zealand for 6 years to get this project done.
And I wouldn't want to do that. So I mean,
it's pretty, but I don't know about.
No, I think 6 years of your life is way too much to dedicate to something that might not even necessarily be that great. I mean, as much as The Hobbit is sort of a beloved property, like I could totally see, especially with them sort of like kind of milking the second movie out of it, like maybe they're not being.
You can guarantee they're trying to find some way to put in like a big battle sequence or something like that.
Well, The Hobbit has a big battle sequence.
Does it really?
The Battle of the Five Towns or whatever at the end, like the dragon.
All I know is,
there's like
it's much more a children's book than Lord of the Rings.
To some extent, yeah, definitely. It was definitely targeted at a younger audience for sure. But there's plenty of like ill shit, for the dudes who want to just come in and see like guys swinging swords.
You just came up with the tagline for it, The Hobbit, right. Ill shit. For
I mean,
dudes
like there's like the D&D playing segment who just wants to see like wizards hurling fireballs and dudes getting decapitated and stuff.
And that's
like,
fine.
They can find ways to put that stuff in there, but
now they have the Sorcerer's Apprentice for that, so they won't. This becomes kind of superfluous.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. The Hobbit has never been. I know people remember it fondly, but like, whatever.
I mean, they established enough characters in the Lord of the Rings trilogy that they want to reprise as many of those as they can. I mean, like I said, it sort of feels like a cash in a way.
Just have Tom Bombadil. Well, they didn't actually get Tom Bombadil in the movies.
No, he's not in The Hobbit anyway. So.
I thought he was.
But they're going to find a way to bring him in anyway.
But it's very possible. I mean, the whole second movie sounds like they were just trying to find an excuse to get like Viggo Mortensen and Orlando Bloom and those characters have nothing to do with The Hobbit.
Zero.
Yeah. But
zero whatsoever.
But it sounds like they're trying to find a way to work them into this contrived second movie.
Yeah, fuck that. No,
so,
not a chance.
We will see.
So that's pretty much news for the week. Some other stuff happened, but nothing was really that interesting. So I'm frankly far more anxious to get to the users' emails.
Yay!
Emails.
Matt Rory, why don't you read us some emails from some users?
Okay, I'll try to do that right now. Well, we were talking about documentaries a little bit ago.
Yes, we were.
And actually, somebody was asking about ones. Count Zero was asking about. Apparently, we talked about him last week too.
Mm-hmm.
So in the wake of your little discussion on documentaries on the last episode of the show, I was wondering, what do you like in documentaries in terms of tone, narration, subject matter, etc., and what are the best examples of that you've seen? At least for me, I don't like political documentaries because I become enraged.
Yeah.
Either way, whether it's liberal or conservative,
even if you agree with the viewpoint.
Friggin', oh yeah, it's
if there is
well, that's
bias.
sort of the thing, is that like I don't really like them because even if I do agree with the viewpoint, I don't like being told how much I should agree with my own viewpoint.
Yeah, I hear like Religulous is kind of like beating over the, hey, religion's so dumb.
It's like, like you take a look at something like, say, like the Casino Jack and the United States of Money. Like that's just an interesting history piece.
Oh.
It's like, it pisses you off to no end.
The story of law. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a point. That's probably the thrust of those movies. They're supposed to piss you off and inspire you to action, or at least be more informed. But I would rather watch a movie with shit blown up, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
But in terms of documentaries, I like, to answer the question more directly, I guess I kind of like more things like Man on Wire, kind of personal stories about people who've done interesting things and who are hopefully still alive to tell their tales and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment, though. I found Man on Wire slightly,
a little over the top,
slightly unbearable because that guy is just so fucking in love with how awesome he is. And it was really hard to take after a while. But like for me, it's about either learning something about a subject that I've never learned about and having them tell an interesting visual story along the way, or it's about just finding these unique, bizarre characters and finding a way to like just shape a story out of them. Like King of Kong.
King of Kong is the obvious example.
Perfect example
there,
of that. Spellbound, another one. It's like like those kind of movies where it's like
American movie.
Yeah, you just don't expect to see that level of
kind of human drama.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like one that I'm really looking forward to that hasn't started playing here yet though is Best Worst Movie, which is a documentary about the people who made Troll 2 and their lives, sort of after the fact, and how like they kind of got this weird big Riggsian, sort of like feeling like a legend going on around that movie, and how everyone except the director, who of course thinks it's the greatest thing he's ever made, hates it, and they love that everyone hates it.
It's unfortunate now that you have kind of people taking that tack though and going too far with it, like the Winnebago Man trailer. It's like, hey, here's a guy. There's a movie coming out about a guy who got famous because they dug up a clip of him trying to sell Winnebagos and cursing a lot in the outtakes, and somebody made a movie about tracking him down and finding him and bringing him back to the big city so people can meet him. And it's kind of,
that doesn't sound like a movie, really.
It sounds like Crocodile Dundee, but with a guy who sells Winnebagos instead of somebody interesting. So
I mean, I don't know. It's like one that we'll actually have a review for fairly soon that I saw at a film festival in Boston was Joan Rivers, a real piece of work, which is, you think Joan Rivers documentary, okay, maybe it doesn't sound super appealing, but it's actually a pretty fascinating look at like 1 year in her current like career life, because like she's not working as much as she used to. She's like trying to put all these things together, and it actually kind of digs into this really interesting portrait of like what her life was like, and what it was like to be a female comedian back in like the 50s and 60s, and just how fucked up some parts of her life really are. And it's actually a fairly well made documentary.
Well, that's the sign of a good documentary to me, is taking a subject that is by all rights should be pretty bland, or you should not be interested in all, and then really finding the story that's inside that. And like I think a good example of that was the documentary Helvetica. It's all about the typeface Helvetica. But it was fascinating. Totally fascinating.
Well,
you don't have to be a graphic artist to understand that.
Yeah, and that font is so pervasive throughout society at this point.
Totally.
It really makes you look at it kind of from a different angle.
The Aristocrats is another example. Just taking a thing and actually finding it, making it fairly compelling to watch. So,
And the good thing is, like, most of these documentaries need distribution. They're happy to get it wherever they can, so a lot of them wind up on Netflix streaming.
Netflix streaming is absolutely chock full, like overflowing with this stuff.
Yeah.
I watched, have you guys seen Beer Wars?
No, I like it already.
I mean, there's a subject matter you can probably get behind from the outset.
What's it about?
Beer. It's about beer. But actually, the interesting part about it is that it's kind of more about the business of beer.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I think you were telling me about it.
It basically, I think I mentioned
Bush
it to you. It basically paints Anheuser-Busch as kind of like the Walmart or the Microsoft of beer breweries. They're more of like a corporate monolith, basically.
Well, they own theme parks, for God's sake.
Yeah, but I mean, also, they just kind of buy up every popular brand they can and, like, rob it of its identity, but keep shoving it out there. Like, they bought Rolling Rock and shut down all of the breweries that Rolling Rock was made at.
Right.
But continued to bottle it, like, from their own breweries. And,
sure.
It's just, it was kind of eye-opening. It was, it examined, like, the kind of the American entrepreneurial spirit. Well, and ingenuity of, like, people trying to launch little kind of boutique breweries and stuff.
Well, you know what? This is why we have our Instant Queue feature on the site, and I believe that over the course of that feature, we will be picking up a lot of like weird little documentaries like this. So keep an eye out. We'll have some stuff for you.
So 2 more questions.
Let's do it.
How about do it? And before we do it, I want to preface this by saying we do read all your questions. We don't get a chance to respond to all of them, but we do appreciate you sending them in. So please continue to do it to screencast@screen.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, you are 100%
That's where to
correct.
send podcast questions. Please do it and do them a lot. We might not see them if they go into podcast comments, so please do email them to us.
Word.
Not that we don't read that all religiously, but
occasionally it's okay to Twitter them at us, but
sure.
We may miss them from time to time.
Are any of the Screened crew hyped about the upcoming HBO series based on George R.R. Martin's A Song of Fire and Ice and Fire books?
Song of
Ice and Fire, or Swords and Dragons, I think is what the other.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
I tried to read that. I tried to read the first book. A kid gets thrown out a window or something.
Yeah,
and
that is dark fantasy.
Yeah, and
there is incest and like child murder and a lot of beheadings.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there is Rome already. Like they've done Rome. They've done like HBO has done tawdry fucking illicit stuff before.
I'm actually kind of shocked that they're entering into production on this thing, because did they not shut Rome down because it was so expensive to make?
Yeah, but
it was BBC was in that too.
Like, it was half
BBC.
Okay, so maybe that's why.
Yeah,
because there's no way this thing is going to be cheap.
No, maybe not. But at the same time, not a book series I've ever really had any interest in. Really? But like as a visual series, I might actually engage in it.
The cast they've been announcing is pretty interesting. They have some pretty good cast
who do they
members.
have so
They're not going for a lot of big names.
It's not a lot of big names, but it seems like the people, like at least the fan site, seem to be pretty excited about the people they're matching up to the characters.
They did get Dinklage.
Oh, Peter Dinklage.
How you say Peter Dinklage? There is a
the dwarf actor.
Yes.
Oh.
The character.
Not Warwick Davis.
No. The character in the books is like the most spiteful, awful, womanizing, drunkard piece of shit.
Yeah, and
ever,
he's a good example of that.
And like people, I guess everybody like wanted that guy for the role, and they got him. So maybe they're doing the right thing.
Well, I thought it was going to be just like they're going to do the first thing and then see if they want to do more.
Right.
The thing is, like it would take at least a season per book. I mean,
I know they're long books.
It's going to be a big commitment.
See, I hear. I know Dave, the Snide Man, really enjoys them too. He tried to get me to
one
read
of the top men. Yes,
one of the top men. Jason Ocampo of all people was really into it too.
Ocampo's the guy who turned me on to it.
Yeah. So I haven't. When I look at fantasy series now, I see the 12 books up on the shelf on the bookstore, and I'm just like, I want to find something a little more compact.
This one's actually got the opposite problem. There are only 4 out now, and
is the guy died or something? Or
no, but he might as well have, because it's been like 5 years since the last book, and like he has not produced anything since then.
Well.
And he's old and overweight, and I don't know what's going to happen.
And so he's just eating his money away at this point.
And he has a blog, and he basically posts on it about football all the time.
Yeah.
Like he's busy like dealing with his TV show and watching football and not writing a fucking book.
Yeah, there you go.
So
hype meter mixed, shall we say?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, especially with the end of Legend of the Seeker just got canceled, so now there needs to be some kind of sword and sorcery.
My God!
TV.
Now what will I watch at 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday?
I mean, the interesting thing about this series is that it's very adult. It's not. There is no sorcery. I mean, there are no wizards. It's not about that. It's more about like kingdoms like moving armies against each other and like political assassinations. And
is there like dragon blood children or something?
There is like some suggestion of like ancient magic, but it doesn't really manifest. It's really more about like people stabbing people in the back so they can get power and stuff like that.
I like that.
So yeah, it's interesting.
All right.
In that respect.
So last one. I have not been reading the people these have been coming from. I'm sorry. The last question was from from Horace Frappadopoulos.
Incidentally, this is why you have not been reading the names of the people who do these things. So.
All right, so the last question is going to be from Mika Letonen, and it is going to be Does the Screened crew have other movies that might not be such gems of the shining screen, but are still so much fun they can't stop loving them? And Mika points out the original Resident Evil movie and House of the Dead, which he says is one of the finest comedies of the 2000s, albeit unintentionally. And
I'm not quite on board with that, but
yeah, we do.
Yeah, we absolutely.
I think everybody does. They have movies that they effing, I really like this movie, but nobody else does. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, the movie you have to defend. And incidentally,
what's that, Alex?
Segue. We are actually going to be launching a new video feature here on Screened, because it seems like all we do is new video features. We never do repeats of the same ones, but maybe that will change at some point. The new one is called Defending Your Movie.
Hey,
and,
what does that mean, Alex?
It involves one of us editorial types basically just taking a movie that we love and society has shunned in one way or another, whether it was just like a critical disaster or made $0 or both.
Yeah.
And telling you, the viewer, why you're fucking wrong. It's basically just our impassioned plea on behalf of the films that we love that no one else does, and we will have a first episode of that very, very soon, probably this Thursday. In fact,
Thursday.
Yeah,
it's only a couple days away.
It is only a couple days away. I already filmed the thing, so there
Whoa.
you go. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
That's movie magic, people.
Can you tell us what the movie is?
I don't want to spoil it.
Right.
But we'll be doing this from time to time. It's it's a pretty easy, nifty feature to do, and I like the idea of us sort of celebrating the fact that everyone's movie taste is definitively different. There is always stuff that maybe you can't immediately think to yourself, this is a movie that I love for good reasons.
Yeah,
but I love it anyway.
Maybe I'll do a Thin Red Line sometime.
There you go. Yeah, like that's I could see a valid defense for that movie. For instance, girlfriend really loves the movie White Chicks. I would love to see her defense of that movie. So
wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean like legitimately loves
Aren't
it.
they making White Chicks 2 or something?
Not. God, I fucking hope not.
That's the Seventh Seal.
Yeah, that is the Seventh Seal of the fucking apocalypse. Oh, Ingmar Bergman, what have you done? So all right.
That's a good 3 questions there. I think
that is a good 3 questions. So again, Screencast at Screened.
Please send in many questions, and we will. We do read them all. We don't always get a chance to reply. Like I said, unfortunately, we're very busy people, but we do read them all. And we do appreciate them.
All right, so that's pretty much the podcast. It's sort of a short one this week, but it's holiday weekend. We were had a lot going on, but I think we covered some significant topics here. Yeah. Brad Shoemaker,
yes sir.
Thank you very much for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have you back again.
Pleasure is all mine.
Talk about some dumb movie or another. Excellent. And whatever you feel like doing, Mr. Lopez.
Yes, I love being here.
I know you do. Now get back to work.
Yes.
Rory,
always a pleasure.
Yeah, I'll see you upstairs. That has been Behind the Screen Door. Send us your emails. Thanks for listening. Hit up the comments. We'll see you next week.